So Luka, when we talked about making this video, you said that nothing is off the table. Do you still feel that way? We can just talk about anything?
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about mental health. When do you remember first feeling depressed?
It was probably around 6th grade, somewhere around there. I started really noticing that I was depressed.
What did that feel like?
For me, depression feels like, on paper, I should be having the best moment of my life, but I feel super down. I have little or no purpose in life, and that everything is a lot harder to do. Like brushing my teeth, like I can't do it.
And then what does anxiety feel like?
It feels like everyone is paying attention to you, everyone's looking at your every move. Like if you make a mistake, something terrible is gonna happen. Like it's always like something is gonna go wrong.
I remember seeing a shift in you, like you were such a hyper, full of life kid, and then all of a sudden you start to shut down, and you were my first. So I'm trying to figure out, is this teenage hormones? One thing I remember clearly, I don't know if you remember this, we were driving in the car. I don't even know what made me ask it. And I said, have you ever thought about hurting yourself? And you said yes. And that was when I was like, oh man, this is more serious than I even realized. And that's when we started, we found a therapist.
Or this might just have been my perspective at the time, but you got me a therapist because you guys found a vape.
That's so interesting to me. I think a lot of times, no matter what a parent does, kids see it as a punishment.
Yeah.
So in your eyes, therapy was me punishing you.
Yeah.
But in my eyes, I was like, my kid is struggling. My kid just told me he's thought about hurting himself. We gotta get help. One thing I learned is if your teenager's not even like finding joy in the things they used to find joy in, you all of a sudden didn't want to hang out with people. Like you didn't want to hang out with friends. You didn't want to do things that you actually enjoyed before. And that's a huge sign, because that's not just like, I don't want to be around my mom and dad, but I want to be with my friends all the time. That's normal teenage stuff, right? And you didn't find joy in any of the activities you used to enjoy.
I remember like the first time I ever like drank. When I first did it, it was more just like for fun. But it slowly became like a thing where it was like the only thing I was looking forward to. It was the only thing that was like getting me through the day. Like if I could get high that day, like it was a good day. Like I remember like becoming more desperate and like began to like steal money from you guys or like ask for money for food or whatever. And I was trying to like sell people broken crap and like these morals that I had, like that like I told myself like, oh, you're not gonna like manipulate someone, you're not gonna steal, you're not gonna do this. Like they slowly became justifiable.
Tell me more about what the drugs and the alcohol, the pills, all of it. What did it do for you? How did it affect your depression, your anxiety, all the things you were struggling with?
At school and stuff, like if I didn't get high, I'd say like, oh, I haven't taken my meds today. Like I couldn't really feel happy without them. And it made me feel like happy and numb. I kept chasing that feeling. And the more you chase it, the less and less euphoria you get after each time. So you have to do more.
You have to up the amount.
Yeah. And so you have to do more and more and more.
A lot of teenagers party, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time, you were actually self-medicating alone in your room. And that's an important thing for parents to know.
A lot of people will disagree, but I don't think it's that big of a deal if your teenager has a beer at a party. Like, I don't think that that's a warning sign or whatever, but like if you find them like using by themselves, like that's usually a red flag that something is going on.
So during this time, you were starting to punch holes in the wall, basically destroying stuff in the house, throwing stuff. We got to the point where every single morning you would leave for school and I would search your room. And if I found something and took it, I knew that when you got home and realized it was gonna be an explosion. Like that's when the holes in the wall happened and you'd get in my face and it was like, I have to take this away. And yet by taking it away, I'm inviting real chaos. All right, so you ready to talk about that night?
It was Easter time, right? And Grandma and Grandpa gave us cards and they put money in them.
Yep.
And I saw my card was opened up and I was like, I looked in the other card and saw that there was money. I was like, they didn't just give my little brother money, they gave both of us money and my parents took it, so.
And not like stealing, like we took the cash and we would put it in your bank account, but we didn't want you to have cash so that you wouldn't be buying drugs. Yep.
I like went in the room, screamed at you guys, and then went to leave and you guys blocked the door because you guys thought I was gonna run away. And then I freaked out and like started getting violent. I threw like a glass bottle on the ground. I don't remember exactly what happened, but Philip had to pin me down, and then I tried to like stab him with a piece of glass. While I was like pinned down, he called the police.
So about a week before that, not even a whole week, you ran away. And because I knew at this point you have stolen from me, I don't know if you've stolen from other people or stores, right? You're desperate for drugs. I know you're super depressed and suicidal. And I called your therapist and he said, every time you're in a situation where you're unsure, just get the police involved.
I remember being on the balcony, like crying, and like the police come and then they like bring me to the car.
So the police show up, there's blood on the ground because of the glass, right? And I remember the police saying to me, take a report and you can press charges. And I was like, what happens if I press charges? And they're like, he goes to jail. And I was like, okay, but my kid needs help. Is there like a therapist that'll be there to talk to him? And they're like, no. I was like, no, my kid needs help. And they were like, well, we can put him on a 72-hour psychiatric hold. And I was like, that's what he needs. They handcuff you, which, by the way, to have to call the cops on your kid is awful. And I know at the time you just hated me and thought I was the worst thing ever. But I hope you realize now, like, I was coming from a place
I
of,
know.
I just want to help my kid. And then to watch them handcuff your kid, it was just like, killed me. And then they take you out, you're barefoot, they put you in the car, and I was begging them, like, can I talk to him? I just want to talk to him because I was so worried about you being taken away and thinking my mom hates me, which you did think that.
At the time, like, it was all your fault. You're the one who started this, you stole my money, and you the one who have been constantly taking my stuff. And
Your drugs.
Yeah, and then you call the cops on me for something you started. Basically it was all your fault. And
Yeah.
like, I didn't see like any of my part, so I was just really angry at you.
And basically you were in the ER because they were waiting for a bed to open up in a psychiatric hospital. And when you're in the ER for a hold, they have you in the hall. I remember walking into the ER and you're right on the other side of the hall when I walk in, and you see me and you were like, get the hell out. And then I just kept coming back.
Yeah.
Like I came back with your favorite smoothie, and then an hour later I came back with your favorite fast food lunch. And at one point you were just like, stop coming back. You're wasting your time. And that was the first time I like got loud, to the point where like the police officer who was in the hall like kind of turned, and I said, you will never be a waste of my time, and I will always keep showing up for you. And they put you in a stretcher and you're laying there and they're strapping your wrists down and your ankles, and you shot me a look I will never forget. It was almost like you turned into like my little baby again, and you gave me this look of, why would you do this to me, Mom? Why do you hate me this much? And I kept having to tell myself, this is coming from love. This is coming from love. I'm doing the best I know how, right?
I just remember being super angry, and none of it was my fault. All of it was your fault. And then you were trying to like make things right by giving me like food or like a smoothie.
Like I was buying you.
Yeah.
You felt like, oh, interesting.
And like it was like you were just trying to, and I was gonna take it, of course, because I didn't want hospital food, but I've just felt like it was all just like a game. That's what I always felt like. I always felt like I was like having to play a game for you guys, and like you guys were making the rules and you guys were always changing the rules, and like it felt like it's like a game I could never win.
So what made you change that perspective to realize, oh wait, they were learning along with me and they were trying to help me because they love me? Like, when did that shift in perspective happen?
I started to be more understanding when I went to residential after my 72-hour hold.
You went to a psychiatric hospital. I think you were there for about
A week and a half.
a week and a half, yeah. And then straight from there to a residential program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I started to be more understanding in my residential. I still was like hating you, but like I was like more understanding, and like the more programs I went to, the more support groups I went to, the more understanding I was. When I started like voluntarily going to meetings, like I started to realize like a lot of this was my fault, and like it wasn't like you that was doing this, like it was me that was doing this to myself. And so I remember at the end of my using, like we'd still like get into fights and stuff. I'd still like be super angry at you, but like I was not taking it out as much on you guys.
Definitely.
I was also like in a lot more pain at that time, but like it was more just you guys supporting me and like saying, how can we help?
Your communication towards us definitely changed through all of that, which is why I'm such a big fan of support groups. I think you get a lot from individual therapy, and you still go to therapy.
Yeah.
But being in support groups where you're, first of all, hearing from other kids your age and you're going, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one. Like that always helps, right?
Yeah.
But then also like you would go, certain days and then we'd go as a family to support groups. And I think for you, hearing from other parents helped.
Yeah.
Okay, one thing I want to touch on real quick from residential. And I remember in a family therapy session, you said to me, I want to build a closer relationship with you. And one thing I'm working on is being honest, because I used to lie to you all the time and I used to steal from you and I want to be honest. And I was like, this is awesome. And then you said, so here's me being honest. As soon as I get out of here, I am going to go back to doing drugs. And my heart just sank. And you kept saying, well, I'm just trying to be honest with you, Mom. It's what's going to happen. And we kind of kept going back and forth, back and forth. And then you broke down and you said, Mom, if the only thing keeping you from killing yourself was being high, would you be high? And all of a sudden it was like, it clicked for, like, I don't know why, because I sort of knew it, but that just made it so clear. Like, he is convinced this is the only way he can live.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at you and going, yes, if I believed the only thing that would keep me from killing myself was doing drugs, I would do drugs. But I have to believe there's another way. A month after residential, you get back into everything. Drugs, stealing pills. And then 5 months later, you had just come back from a support group. I get a text from Philip, come downstairs right now. And I'm panicked because at this point, you guys were really late. So I thought something happened.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming the worst. He either ran away, he hurt himself, he's arrested. Like, I'm thinking the worst. I walked down those stairs and you literally went like this. I'm done. And you handed me things I didn't even know you had.
Yeah.
You handed me everything. And you said, I'm done. Tell me about that. What is going on in your head that's making you go, I'm giving the stuff that's keeping me alive, I'm giving it up to the person that I know is never giving it back?
Well, I remember that morning, like being in class and like the guy who I gave money to buy weed, he flaked on me, so I didn't get any weed that day. I feel like if I was able to get high that day, like I might have not gotten sober at the time I did. But like the thing was, remember sitting in class and like, I remember like being like, if I'm dead afraid of needles, but if someone offered me heroin right now, I would instantly shoot up and not even think about it. That was kind of like a red flag in my head. I don't know exactly why, but like in that moment it was like, there's something wrong here. Like, and I knew I had a problem. Like I might have like pretend like I didn't, but like I was going to these meetings and support groups for a reason. Like I was going voluntarily. Like there was something was relating to these people.
Yeah.
And like all of their ideas kind of are like flooding my head. I also realized that like this last month of using, I was absolutely miserable like the whole time. Like even when I was high, like I remember just being super lonely and super depressed, even though I was getting high. Like it all clicked to me like when I was talking to Philip that like this isn't working anymore. Like I can't live my life like this anymore. Like I can't be dependent on this for happiness. I need to try out sobriety, like try something else out because this isn't working. That's what finally clicked in my head. And
this is why I'm so proud of you for being 22 months sober. I know that you were in so much pain with your depression and it was so hard explaining it as that was the only time you were happy. So for you to make the choice to give up, right? To give that up and stick with it even when COVID and everything else happened, I'm just really proud of you.
Thanks, Mom.
I'm really proud of you. I remember you told me like that you regretted it after.
Yeah.
You're like, why did I turn all that, in?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is important to know because it's not like you go sober and then you're like, yay, it's all gonna be great. Like
No,
it was hard.
And even like with lots of sobriety, like there's moments where you're like recently, like I'm a little bit more down lately.
Yeah.
And like sometimes like I'm sober and I'm like not thinking about drugs really that much. And like sometimes I'm sober and I'm like, that would be nice, but like I can't do that. Like it just like, I don't know, like there's always gonna be ups and downs throughout anything in life and especially sobriety. And like, well, when you're just using drugs, you're just flat, like you're going down, like you're not experiencing life to its fullest. You're just numb for so much of it. And part of what's so good about being sober is like the bad times make the good times even better.
Because you're actually experiencing real human emotions.
Yeah.
Whereas with drugs, you can't. I feel like our relationship has obviously gotten so much better.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's changed, not just your relationship with me, but with other people?
Like when every area it's changed, like with family members, I'm actually able to build a connection with them. Like when I had friends before, if I wasn't doing something I wanted to do, then I was miserable. Like, and now I can be sober, have nothing in a room, and have like the time of my life with a friend, you know?
I'm just really proud of you for opening up and sharing.
The reason I wanted to do this video is I really wanted to help people, help not only kids, but also parents understand at least my story, maybe get something out of it. And that's why I am doing this video, because I just want to kind of give back in a way.
And you are. I don't believe in the whole everything happens for a reason, but I believe that we can take the stuff that's happened to us and use it for a purpose. When I was coming back in that ER, and I kept coming back and you kept kicking me out and I kept coming back, right? And I remember at one point when you finally let me sit with you, you said, when I get out of here, I'm gonna change my name and you'll never see my effing face again. And I said to you, no, when you get out of here, you're gonna get better, you're gonna get healthier, and you're gonna help somebody else. And that's what you're doing. You've taken all of that pain that you've been through and you're helping somebody else. I want to apologize to you. I know I've apologized a million times, but I want to apologize to you for all the times I didn't support you in the way you needed to be supported.
I just want you to know I don't think about the times you messed up. Like, mental health is like very hard to deal with, like even if you're the one struggling with it, but let alone if you're trying to help someone else with mental health. Like, it's different for everyone, so you have to like learn how to like navigate it. I'm honestly sorry for all the stuff I did throughout my using, and like especially the stuff I did when I was sober, because I don't have the excuse of like, oh, I was like high or whatever. And I know you don't hold that against me either.
Not at all.
So.
Because again, I know you were in pain. And it wasn't like me being a naive mom who thinks her kid's perfect, no. But I never saw you as like a bad kid. And I think a lot of times when people struggle with mental health, kids, teens especially, they're labeled as the bad kid, the rebel, right? And one thing I learned that's so important through raising you these last 4 years or so is for me to really pay attention, not just with you, but with my other kids too, when a negative behavior requires a consequence and when it requires help. And you can't punish or intimidate or scare someone out of depression, right?
Yeah, I agree.
One thing we do now is almost every day I'll go to you and I'll go, how can I support you today? And I wish I'd started that earlier. So if someone's watching this, whether they are a kid or an adult, and they are feeling those things you felt, hopeless, worthless, self-medicating, whatever it is, but their depression, their anxiety is like really taken over, what would you say to them?
Know that life gets better, but you have to put in the work.
I love that.
Because you can't just sit on your butt and do nothing and expect things to get better. But there's also people who do put in a lot of work and don't see the benefits, but they will come. Like, they may not be happening right now, but they will eventually, it will pay off to do the work. Go to therapy, do productive things in your life, to get a hobby, to have social interactions, to exercise, like that kind of stuff. Support groups, whatever, and it's different for everyone. It's different things. Like, for some people, like playing a sport could be like therapy for them, and for other people, playing a sport could be extra depression for them, you know, like it's torture. Like, I don't know, like there's different things work for different people. That's what I'm trying to say.
But I love what you said too, that it might take time, because we humans always crave a quick fix. If I do one sit-up, where's my six-pack? It's like, well, no, you're gonna have to keep at it. And the same is true for mental health, right?
Yeah.
You have to keep exercising, therapy, support groups, like you said, hobbies, all of it, and eventually it'll get better. When you were really struggling with depression for months, years, I would go into your room in the middle of the night, I don't even know if you do this, and I would check if you were breathing, because I was so worried that you had like taken your life. And that's what you do in newborns, right? Especially with your first kid, you're like checking when they're sleeping, whether they're breathing. And I would go in there and I would just like put my face near you and make sure you were breathing. And so now when people ask me how you're doing, that know our story, I always tell them, I don't check on him at night anymore, because you're doing really good. And if things get hard again, I'm here. And I love you so much.
Love you too, Mom.